Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia channel. This program interprets good to great for you. This is a must-read classic for managers. It discusses how some companies that have been mediocre for a long time, or even half-dead companies, can make a leap forward and become an excellent company, a great company. So how exactly do they do it? What are the key factors in this process? Why is it said that excellent talents have dual personalities? And how to use the flywheel effect to achieve a leap from mediocrity to excellence and make yourself successful. After watching this video, you can find the answer. The author of this book is Jim Collins, who has become one of the most famous management scientists of our time with his super bestseller Built to Last. Interestingly, when Built to Last was selling well, a friend of Collins said bluntly to him, "This book is useless." Collins was taken aback. It turned out that this friend believed that the companies studied in Built to Last seemed to have their own genes for excellence, and they have been excellent since their birth, but such companies are very few after all. For the vast majority of mediocre companies, they don't have such genes. If they want to change and catch up, what should they do? In other words, if you are not born rich and handsome, how can you counterattack? Built to Last doesn't provide an answer. Collins felt that the friend had made too much sense. This question is like a black box in business, and it stimulates Collins' curiosity. So he acted immediately and set up a research team composed of 21 people. It took 5 years, through a unique research method, and finally wrote their findings and conclusions into the book Good to Great. It can be said that the answer is both unexpected and inspiring. This book has also become another long-lasting work of Collins after Built to Last. Next, we will give you a detailed interpretation of the secret from mediocrity to greatness from 2 aspects. First, what is special about the research method of this book compared with general business books? Second, the key elements to achieve leapfrogging are what? First part. Let's start with the first point. What is the unique research method used by the Collins team? We think this is the biggest highlight of this book, surpassing general business bestsellers. The idea of writing a general business bestseller is to find some successful star companies, study their history, and summarize some common features, such as being close to customers, independent innovation, and value-driven, and then announce that these common features are these star companies. The reason for the success, as long as we learn these characteristics, we can replicate their success. The question is such a research idea really rigorous? Many unsuccessful companies may also have achieved closeness to customers and independent innovation, but failed in the end. How do you explain it? For example, if you want to study how Olympic champions are successful, you look for what these champions have in common, and then declare that they won because they all had a coach, which is obviously absurd. The problem with this research method is that there is no control group. We know that in medicine, if we want to verify the efficacy of a drug, we must set up a control group. Usually, the patients are divided into 3 groups. One group takes medicine, one group takes placebo, and one group takes nothing. Only by comparing the responses of the 3 groups of patients can we know whether the drug is really effective. The Collins team borrowed this research method and introduced strict control group companies to see how they did. First, they rigidly define what it takes to go from mediocrity to greatness. For the company to be 30+ years old, it has to be mediocre in the first 15 years with a cumulative stock return less than or equal to the market average, and it has to be great in the last 15 years with a cumulative stock return more than 3 times the market average. Collins said that the minimum period of 15 years was set because such a long period can eliminate the element of chance luck, as well as the factor of individual leaders. The 15-year cumulative stock return rate must be 3 times the market average. This is a very high requirement. You must know that star companies such as Coca-Cola, General Electric, Intel, and Walmart only reached 2.5 times the market average. Moreover, if a certain industry happens to be sitting on the cusp during the past 15 years, and the rate of return of the entire industry is much higher than the market average, then companies in this industry will not be considered. According to this extremely harsh standard, the Collins team conducted a drag screening of all 1,435 companies that were on the Fortune 500 in the 30 years from 1965 to 1995, and finally found only 11 companies that met the standards. They are the model companies that have gone from mediocrity to greatness. It should be noted that when the Collins team conducted this research, many high-tech companies had not had a long history and had not yet shown a special pattern from good to great. Therefore, high-tech companies were not included in the sample of this study. Then, according to the situation of the model company, the Collins team carefully selected two groups of control companies. The first group is 11 direct comparison companies, which are very similar to the model companies before the leap, in the same industry, with similar size and performance, but never achieved the leap from mediocrity to greatness. The second group is 6 companies that fail to maintain greatness, companies that make a short-lived leap, fail to maintain their edge, and quickly fall back to mediocrity. The model company and the two groups of comparison companies add up to a total of 28 companies. The task for Collins' team was to find out which elements of management were present in all the sample companies over the span of time and which were not present in the two control groups. Collins is convinced that these elements hold the key to unlocking the journey from mediocrity to greatness. To this end, the Collins team collected as many as 6,000 public reports from these 28 companies in the past 50 years, conducted an in-depth analysis of the strategies, culture, finance, personnel, and other aspects of these companies from qualitative and quantitative perspectives, and then explore the meaning behind the data through weekly group discussions and brainstorming. The entire research work took 5 years, and they finally announced that they had found several key elements to achieve the leap, and came to an exciting conclusion: there are indeed rules to follow for the leap from mediocrity to greatness. The above is the first key point. The unique research method used by the Collins team is the biggest highlight of this book beyond general business bestsellers. From more than 1,000 Fortune 500 companies in the past 30 years, they strictly selected 11 model companies that have achieved leapfrogging, and set up two groups of comparison companies at the same time. Element. The second part. Let's take a closer look at what are the key elements that the Collins team found. Specifically, it is divided into 3 aspects: personnel, strategy, and motivation mechanism, corresponding to 3 keywords: fifth-level managers, hedgehog concept, and flywheel effect. Let's look at the first aspect first, the personnel element, and the corresponding keyword is the fifth-level manager. Collins divides managers into 5 levels according to their abilities. The so-called fifth-level managers are leaders at the top of the ability pyramid. He found that all the sample companies had level 5 managers in key good to great positions, while the control companies had no such leaders. Collins believes that whether there is a fifth-level manager is the most critical factor for a company to achieve leapfrogging. Maybe you might say, great leaders make great companies. This is common sense. How can it be considered a major discovery? The key point here is that what Collins refers to as level 5 managers is completely different from the powerful business elites we remember. In fact, this is a group of very earth people. They are low-key and introverted, taciturn, and it is difficult to say that they have any personal charm. They have not been paid attention to by the media and the public for a long time. One piece of evidence is that among the 6,000 public reports collected by the Collins team, the number of reports on model companies is only half that of control companies, and the reports on the CEOs of those model companies, which is what Collins calls fifth-level managers, there are even fewer, and we have basically never heard of the names of these people. Consider Darwin Smith, the legendary CEO of Kimberly-Clark, a typical fifth-level manager written in the book. Kimberly-Clark was originally a traditional paper company whose main business was the production of coated paper. The industry was in a downturn, and the company's management was not good. In the 20 years before the leap, the company's stock fell to 36% of the market average, and it was on the verge of bankruptcy. Smith steps in and takes over as CEO. Before that, he had been serving as the company's in-house lawyer, wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses, reticent and unremarkable. In fact, the board chose him not because it believed in his ability to turn the company around, but because it believed he would be more comfortable handling the bankruptcy process. What's worse, he was diagnosed with cancer just 2 months after he became CEO, and the doctor asserted that he would not live for a year. What happened next, even Smith himself did not expect. He sat on the CEO seat for 20 years. During this period, he not only overcame the threat of illness, but also created a business miracle. Kimberly-Clark changed from a half-dead third-rate enterprise to a world-class paper consumer goods enterprise in one fell swoop. The company's key products such as Huggies diapers and Kleenex have become world-renowned brands. Among the company's 8 product series, 6 have surpassed the industry giant Procter & Gamble. In stark contrast to the company's brilliant performance, Smith himself rarely appeared in the media and was unknown to the public. Whenever a reporter asked a question, Smith was quite stiff and didn't know how to respond. However, it is such a person who showed the firmest leadership will in the most difficult time of the company. He sold all the paper mills of the company, gave up the traditional coated paper business, announced to enter the paper consumer goods industry in an all-round way, and the industry giant Procter & Gamble companies compete head-on. At the time, Wall Street investors thought Smith was crazy, and the company's stock was downgraded. In the face of doubts from the outside world, Smith remains unwavering. He firmly believes that only by focusing on world-class competitors can he achieve self-transcendence. In Smith, we see a double personality trait, extreme humility and extreme determination. Extremely humble means that he is not self-centered, not self-inflated. What he pursues is to achieve lofty goals, not personal wealth and fame. Extremely firm will means that he has a strong self-driven strength, determination and courage to remove all obstacles in order to achieve great goals. Collins says that level 5 managers share this personality trait, which creates a unique attribution model, giving credit to others or luck for success and looking to yourself for setbacks. Conversely, looking at the leaders of the control group companies, their general reaction is to take credit for themselves when they have credit and blame others for setbacks. The two models are in stark contrast. In addition, there are 2 important differences between level 5 managers and leaders of control companies. First and foremost, level 5 managers prioritized company success over personal success, whereas control company leaders tended to place greater emphasis on personal wealth, power, and fame. To give a specific example, the direct comparison company of Kimberly-Clark mentioned earlier is called Scott Paper, and this company invented the toilet paper we use to go to the toilet. Scott Paper was originally the leader in the U.S. paper industry, but because of the downturn in the industry, it was also in trouble like Kimberly-Clark, so Scott hired a man named Dunlap to be the CEO. The characteristic of this person is that he is particularly good at bragging, boasting himself in the media, claiming that he will create the greatest company in the history of American business. As a result, Dunlap mainly did 3 things during his tenure of less than 2 years. First, lay off employees. Second, cut the research and development budget. Third, artificially fatten the company in order to sell it at a good price. In the end, he got his wish and sold Scott to Kimberly-Clark. Dunlap made a net profit of $100 million. Calculated, during his more than 600 days as CEO, he earned an average of $165,000 per day. He later wrote an autobiography to brag about his wise decision. Someone like Dunlap, who has only self-interest in mind, will never be a level 5 manager. It is very interesting that when the control group company is in trouble, it likes to hire foreign aid at a high price, and invites celebrities from the business world to parachute to serve as CEO, expecting their experience to drive the development of the company, but in fact this method is not only ineffective, but often fails. Backlash, making the situation worse. Looking at the sample companies again, 10 of the 11 CEOs were promoted from within. This suggests that level 5 managers are more likely to be hiding inside the company, just waiting to be discovered. This is the first difference between the level 5 managers and the leaders of the control companies. The level 5 managers put the success of the company above their personal success, while the control group did the opposite. In actual leadership, the 5th level managers pay more attention to team building, while the leaders of the control company often adopt the model of 1 genius plus 1,000 assistants. This is their second important difference. The so-called 1 genius plus 1,000 assistants model means that the operation of the entire company depends entirely on the personal business capabilities of the leaders, and the company is actually just a stage for the leaders to showcase their talents. This type of leader usually has excellent management capabilities, but is arbitrary and self-centered, and is the dictator in the company. He doesn't need to bother to search for real management talents, he just needs a group of obedient subordinates to carry out orders. According to Collins, such a leader can be counted as a 4th-level manager. During his tenure, the 4th-level manager can make a leap in the company's performance by himself, But the problem is that once this person leaves, others will be at a loss like headless chickens. The company was in trouble right away. In Colin's sample, the second group of control companies, the ones that failed to maintain greatness, had leaders of this type for the most part. Consciously or unintentionally, they chose incompetent successors, just to prove that you see, the company can't play without me, and the result is exactly the same. The company quickly declined after achieving a short-term leap. And how does the fifth-level manager do it? They never emphasize their personal authority. They understand that to build a great company, you must first have a great management team. To have a great management team, you must first find the right people. So how to find talents? Many people think that an outstanding leader must first determine the strategic goals and direction of the company, and then recruit talents according to the strategic needs. In fact, the steps are reversed. First recruit talents, and then determine the direction, that is, first people aftermath principle. If the company is compared to a passenger car, and the leader is the driver, then the approach of the fifth-level manager is to first invite the right people to get on the bus, and then discuss with these people where to drive. This is because, if there is no suitable person, no matter how grand the plan is, it will be useless, and once there is the right person, you can constantly adjust the direction as you move forward, and finally find the path to success. The above are the personnel elements to achieve leapfrogging, the fifth-level manager. Level 5 managers have a dual personality, extreme humility and extreme determination. They put the company's success above their personal success, put the strength of the team above their personal authority, give credit to others when they encounter problems, and reflect on themselves when they encounter problems. Whether there are fifth-level managers is the most critical factor for a company to achieve leapfrogging. After talking about the human factor, let's look at the company's strategic factors. The corresponding keyword is the hedgehog concept. To achieve the leap from mediocrity to greatness, formulating the right corporate strategy is definitely an essential factor. However, the Collins team was very confused at the beginning. On the surface, all companies have a very clear strategic plan. The resources invested in the company are similar, and there is no obvious difference between the model company and the comparison company. Does this mean that the company's strategy is not important at all? After further discussion, they found that if there is a difference, it is that the strategies of the model companies are very simple and can be explained in one sentence. For example, Walgreens, one of the model companies, a chain pharmaceutical company, its strategy is the best and most convenient pharmacy, with considerable profit per customer visit, that is, to let every customer who comes to the store contribute as much as possible. Profits. However, simple does not necessarily mean it will work, right? Simple and easy to do, but how do you keep it simple and correct? In order to find out what the mystery of the model company's strategy was, the team members went through several months of in-depth research and finally attributed their findings to the hedgehog concept. The metaphor of the hedgehog comes from an ancient Greek proverb, which roughly means that no matter how many tricks a fox has, there will always be a time when it is at the end of its rope and has nothing to do. Although a hedgehog only knows one trick, no one can do anything to it. Collins found that in terms of corporate strategy, the comparison companies were more like foxes, trying to do many things at once, but failing due to lack of consistency and patience, while the prototype companies were more like hedgehogs, they only knew one big thing, persevering in this matter. The result was a successful leap forward. This one big thing is the hedgehog concept that Collins said. It seems simple, but it must be deeply thought from three aspects before it can be grasped. These three aspects are, first, what we are best at doing, second, what we are most interested in, the third, how can we get the most return from this matter. These three questions are like three circles, and the big thing you should do is the intersection of these three circles. Take Walgreens, a pharmaceutical chain, as an example. The family business originally operated a chain of pharmacies and a chain of restaurants, but its operating conditions were mediocre. After Walgreens Jr., the fifth-level manager of the company, took over, after repeated thinking, he finally figured out one thing: operating restaurants is not the future of the company. It's not that the catering industry is bad, but he clearly understands that the company does not have an advantage in running restaurants and cannot be the best in the industry. However, operating chain drugstores, especially convenience chain drugstores, the company may do its best and become the best chain drugstore in the world. This is more exciting and meaningful for them than catering. In other words, Walgreens Jr. has found two of the three rings. What they are best at and most interested in is running a chain of convenience pharmacies. With this in mind, he sold all 500 restaurants without hesitation and used the money to expand the drugstore chain at a high speed. The last of the three rings remains: how do you get the most out of this one? Walgreens focuses its attention on one indicator, which is revenue per customer visit, while traditional chain drugstores generally value the profit per unit pharmacy. Where is the difference? If you want to maximize the profits of a unit pharmacy, then the stores should not be too dense, because they will divert each other, but Walgreens does the opposite. Its strategy is to open dense stores. There are 9 pharmacies per mile in the urban area, and the average price per mile there is one every few hundred meters to ensure extremely high convenience. In this way, although the profit of a single store will not be too high, as long as the income per customer visit is continuously increased, both convenience and high profit can be realized. In this way, Walgreens found its own hedgehog concept. Its pharmacies connect pharmacies, blocks connect blocks, and cities connect cities. Walgreens itself has grown into a big hedgehog with a simple concept. From 1975 to 2000, Walgreens' cumulative stock return exceeded the market average by 150 times. In June 2018, General Electric, a century-old store in the United States, was kicked out of the Dow Jones Industrial Index due to poor stock performance, and Walgreens, also a century-old store, replaced General Electric in the index. The above are the strategic elements to achieve leapfrogging, the hedgehog concept. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing, and he is persistent in it. A successful strategy looks extremely simple, but it is based on a deep understanding of its own advantages and industry laws based on the three-ring problem, while a failed strategy is often very fancy, but it is actually a bluff. After talking about personnel elements and strategic elements, let's look at how these elements form a powerful dynamic mechanism and finally achieve leapfrogging. This is the third keyword, the flywheel effect. Maybe you have to ask again, in addition to people and strategy, what about technology? Isn't technology a key element in making the leap? Among the 11 model companies, many companies are indeed famous for their advanced technologies. For example, Walgreens, a drugstore chain, took the lead in using satellite communication technology and internet technology in the industry. The blade part has dozens of technical patents. Is technology the fundamental factor for these companies to achieve leapfrogging? One of the most surprising findings from their study, Collins said, was that technical factors were far less important than thought. Technological change has never been the key to going from mediocrity to greatness, not even the top 3. In fact, technological change acts as an accelerator. In other words, if you have found the right people and the right strategy, you have opened the door to leapfrogging, then technological change can add to the cake and accelerate this development momentum. However, if you have not touched the doorway of leapfrogging, it is impossible to succeed if you want to use technological change as the first driving force for leapfrogging. It's not just technological change, and it's not feasible to hope for any single, sudden major change to achieve leapfrogging. For example, announcing a grand plan, implementing a major acquisition, entering a new field, introducing a celebrity as a CEO, etc. These massive and even dramatic means of change are unlikely to start the process of leapfrogging. True leapfrogging, on the contrary, is propelled by a series of correct actions, and change happens quietly, possibly without the parties themselves realizing it. Imagine that in front of you there is a giant wheel with a diameter of 30 meters, a width of 3 meters and a weight of 26 tons. Now your task is to make this wheel turn rapidly, the faster the better. You push it with all your strength, but the wheel doesn't move at all. Not discouraged, you keep pushing hard in the same direction, and finally the wheel turns a little bit slowly. But because the wheel itself is too big, others can hardly see any changes. You keep pushing, bit by bit, and the wheel goes through 1-2 turns very slowly, with no noticeable change in speed. However, after the wheel turns 100 or 200 times, you suddenly find that the momentum accumulated by the wheel is getting bigger and bigger, and the speed is getting faster and faster. You don't even need to exert a lot of effort, and the wheel will run at high speed by virtue of its own inertia. Stand up. This is what Collins calls the flywheel effect. In the whole process of leaping, it is impossible for you to find a certain moment of witnessing a miracle, or a certain method that can be quickly grasped, saying that this is the root cause of a successful leap, and the realization of the leap depends on continuous efforts in one direction. One action after another, round and round, all the factors combine to finally make the wheels fly. For example, the famous Amazon company, which has been in a loss state for more than 10 consecutive years since its listing in 1997, did not start to make stable profits until 2015, but after that, the company's market value began to grow rapidly. By August 2018, Amazon's market value ranked second in the world, second only to Apple. Amazon's growth trajectory is a typical flywheel effect. Selling advertisements is easy and quick to make money, but Amazon does not make money, but insists on doing things that are thankless, such as insisting on giving customers the best experience, cultivating third-party sellers, cloud services, etc. These things cannot bring in cash income for a long time, but they can cooperate with each other to form a complete and grand business logic. For more than 10 years, Amazon has pushed this business logic round and round. Although outsiders cannot see it, it has been quietly accumulating momentum. In the end, the giant wheel began to accelerate, and it became faster and unstoppable. Corresponding to the flywheel effect is the wheel of doom. The companies in the control group are unwilling to work hard to push the wheel. They always like to try their luck by doing things and making big moves to see if the wheel can turn. When they see that a plan does not work, they immediately change to a new plan. Push the wheel in the right direction and change it if it fails. As a result, all efforts fail to form a joint force, and continuous setbacks drain the morale of the employees. This is the wheel of doom. Managers should always be alert to whether your business is sitting on a flywheel or in a wheel of doom. The above is the dynamic mechanism to achieve leapfrogging, the flywheel effect. The leap is achieved by continuously pushing the wheel in one direction, and it is the combined force of all efforts that finally makes the wheel fly. Technological change is just an accelerator that drives the flywheel. You can't expect to make a leap just through technological change or any other quick and dirty solution. Now, let's review the essence of this book. First, the Collins team used a unique research method to find the key elements to achieve leapfrogging by strictly comparing the situation of the model company and two groups of control companies. Second, the personnel element to achieve leapfrogging is the fifth-level manager. Level 5 managers have a dual personality, extreme humility and extreme determination. They put the company's success above their personal success, put the strength of the team above their personal authority, give credit to others when they encounter problems, and reflect on themselves when they encounter problems. Third, the strategic element to achieve leapfrogging is the hedgehog concept. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing, and he is persistent in it. A successful strategy seems extremely simple, but it is based on a deep understanding of its own advantages and industry laws based on the three-ring problem. Fourth, the dynamic mechanism to achieve leapfrogging is the flywheel effect. The leap is achieved by continuously pushing the wheel in one direction, and it is the combined force of all efforts that finally makes the wheel fly. Technological change is just an accelerator that drives the flywheel, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution to make the leap. Finally, some more thoughts. Although this book is about how a company can go from mediocrity to excellence, the laws summarized in the book are also completely applicable to us personally. The personality traits possessed by the fifth-level managers are themselves the best qualities in human beings. People with such qualities can be successful whether they run a business or engage in other businesses. So as an individual, how do you become a fifth-level manager? How do you find your own hedgehog philosophy? How do you turn the flywheel of life? And how do you achieve the leap from mediocrity to excellence? These issues need to be further considered. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.